Jon Anik and Kenny Florian podcast. Jon Anik and Kenny Florian.
I f***ing love him. I can't get enough of him.
Let's hear that Boston next.
Big jab there from Duffy, and Frank Mir is hurt now. Down goes Duffy, out cold. Frank Mir does it again. Rock'em sock'em robots here. Oh my goodness.
Hyperbole. There are a couple of absolutely self-involved bullshit artists.
Here are your hosts, Jon Anik and Kenny Florian.
Next shot.
So for several years, we did this show for free. And it's not like we're raking it in, right? But the 12 to 14 pay-per-view recap episodes that we do, I think I would pay to do. I think I would pay to be able to have an hour with Kenny Florian after these UFC pay-per-views. So to that end, great to be with you live on a Monday, episode 557 of the Anik and Florian podcast. It is Monday, June 30th. The year is 2025. Cam Flo, it's great to see you.
Likewise, whatever you said, I agree with, man. That was an amazing card. So much to talk about. Can we talk about your suit for a little while too? Dude, that was fire. Where'd you get that one? And he's gone. We may have lost Jon a little bit. Jon is at an undisclosed location right now. His Wi-Fi is a little iffy. So hopefully we'll get him back soon. But yeah, I mean, what do you guys think of Jon Anik's suit? Wasn't it amazing? Yeah, I'm curious to see what Jon thought about just the energy of both the co-main and the main event. Just fantastic championship fights back and forth. And Ilia Topuria just continues his reign of terror. And is this Jon? There he is. We got him back.
Yeah, how we doing?
Good. We got you back. That's the most important thing. Uh-oh. We may have lost Jon again. Hopefully he'll come back soon.
All right, I think we're going to make this happen right now. We're going to make this happen right now. Can you hear me?
Yes. We got you.
All right. So, of course, you talk about the all-time jinx, right? I just said that I would pay for these shows. I would pay to do these shows. They're the episodes that I look forward to the most, and now my Wi-Fi is going to crap out. I can't remember having a Wi-Fi issue quite like this bad. So before I get into the meat and potatoes, how do I sound not now but right now?
You sound good, dude. You sound good.
Okay. All right. So Ilia Topuria is everything that you have been repeatedly saying he is, but we're going to need to peel back the technical curtain a little bit here. And perhaps it's just simple, but a lot of people are arguing that what he has done over the course of these three fights, right, is the greatest three-fight winning streak in UFC history when you stack three successive, not TKOs, but knockouts of Alexander Volkanovski, Max Holloway, and now Charles Oliveira. So what do you have for us on the new UFC lightweight champion?
Yeah, Jon, what he did to Volkanovski was insane. And then, people are saying, well, Holloway, he's got a chin of steel. No one's ever knocked him out. Holloway's way longer. He's way more experienced. He's bigger, yada, yada, yada. And he goes out and does the exact same thing to Holloway, a guy with an iron chin. That was everything I needed to see, Jon. Not only the fact that he was getting the result, which was unbelievable, but it was the manner in which he was going about his business. He is so technical, Jon. And it's like a lot of things. It's the guys that do all the invisible things correctly. All the guys that have the fundamentals down, the basics, where they don't have to think about it. He just goes into automatic mode. And when I see a guy walk out to the octagon and clap for his opponent, go out there like he was going to go out there and get a shoe shine, and then bow to his opponent, like it was unbelievable start to finish what he did execution-wise against a guy in Charles Oliveira who has been the most dangerous finisher in UFC history. He knew what this result was going to be. And again, that combination, that ending combination, Jon, is as sharp as any boxing combination you will see at
Yeah.
the highest levels of the sport. And you're about to see that in Canelo versus Crawford, by the way. Congratulations. I'm pumped for you, my man. I can't wait to see the fight. But that's high level boxing. This isn't just, a guy, he's got power, he's got speed. The timing, the execution, John, I can go on and on, but I'll let you jump in there.
Well, no, I mean, I could say athleticism and then let you rip. I could say accuracy and then I could let you rip. I could say hips, right? I've heard a lot of people talk about his hips, but I would rather sort of just let you rip. I mean, you mentioned sort of how matter of fact he is about everything, almost as if the outcome is an eventuality, having his celebration dinner the night before the fight. And Kenny, I know you weren't as relaxed in combat as this man, right? You thrived in combat, there's no doubt, but there is something miraculous about this man. I truly, in my 20 years covering combat sports, have never seen anything like it.
When you put in the work, similar to a Jon Anik, when you put in the work, you get the skill. And when you get the skill, you get the confidence. That's what's happening with Ilia Topuria. And this is what happens, John, when you get these kids that are starting the sport very early on, and at 5 years old doing wrestling, at 9, 10, they're doing jiu-jitsu, at 13, 14, they're doing boxing, and they are true students of the game. Ilia Topuria has the ability to watch everything inside the sport and outside the sport. And boy, has this guy done his homework and surrounded himself with some amazing coaches who have elevated his game to be what I think, and I've been saying for a little while now, is the best pound-for-pound fighter on the planet. His overall skill, it's a marvel to watch him compete. And again, the masters make it look easy, and Ilia Topuria, make no mistake about it, is a master.
Two of the three Clement brothers weren't even in his corner, and we didn't even have a chance to sort of get into that storyline. He doesn't give you the time, and calling his shot doesn't even begin to describe it, right? You talk about the early start doing jiu-jitsu at 5 years of age and the world-class nature of his grappling skills that we haven't necessarily seen yet, right? But certainly he knows how to get out of a somewhat compromising spot against Charles Oliveira early in that fight. But my goodness, Kenny, in terms of comps in this sport, right? I don't know. I mean, I try not to sound too hyperbolic, but as soon as I get up to the ESPN post-fight show set, our producer, Charlie Moynihan, says to me, greatest 3-fight winning streak in UFC history. And I'm thinking, man, it just might be.
How do you dispute it at this point? You think about, I mean, I have chills thinking about it, but all the guys, when you look at what they've accomplished, Charles Oliveira, Alexander Volkanovski, Max Holloway, I heard someone say something like he's getting these guys, at the end of their prime, or maybe when they're not in their prime. I disagree completely. These guys are amazing, amazing fighters. Look at what Holloway did to Gaethje. Look at the consistency that Volkanovski had at 145. These are still some of the best fighters in UFC history. And Topuria's taken them out like this is their debut. I mean, it's again, it's unbelievable to watch. This guy is something special. And this is what happens when you stress test your stuff at a very early age. And when you go out to compete, it's matter of fact. He put in the work. And I think when you get a guy, this is how dangerous he is, John, is that the more aggressive you are, the more you put yourself into danger. It's like throwing yourself at a spear or a knife. That's how sharp Topuria is. He knew it was going to be an early finish because of Oliveira's aggression. He was going to use it against him. And that's always the sign of a guy who truly, truly knows what he's doing.
You sort of referenced the next level of martial arts, and we hear that from Ilia Topuria a lot. And I think so much of his confidence is just rooted in the fact that not only has he been doing this for so long, but he really feels like he's the next generation. And, maybe Joshua Van eventually becomes that next generation as well. But this kid is absolutely spectacular. And he's got his son throwing spinning elbows that look more crisp and tight than, many guys on the roster. So in terms of the fight-ending combination that you speak of, right hand from hell, from my vantage point, and upon replay, the left hand didn't even factor in the equation. Almost glanced off his shoulder. Dude, I mean, this power could carry up to 70. I don't know about the grappling, but my God.
A man of his word. I love that call, dude. I think that it all started with the jab. It was like, he was trying to keep Oliveira away. He was trying to lure him in. He was jabbing to the head. It was a hard jab, stunned him a little bit. It was a jab to the body. Oliveira tried to close that distance immediately. And then once he set his feet with that low base, my goodness, that right hand was delivered from hell. And yeah, I mean, the left hook hit on the shoulder. The left hook didn't even put him out. It was the right hand that put him out. He could have just walked away, and Oliveira would have had his hands, almost like with the yellow tape that they put when there's a dead body, to make that horrible analogy. But that's how he laid him out. And then the follow-up hammer fists. If this is what he does to fighters that he likes, I can't imagine what he's going to do to someone like Paddy Pimblett, but he is violence, precision, and timing all put together in a package that makes him probably the best guy, again, the best mixed martial arts fighter that I've ever seen.
And I think recently, maybe even after this fight, he looked back upon some of his comments on tape and sort of acknowledge maybe some cockiness. But I'm telling you, Kenny, I've been saying from day one, it's not cockiness. It's not arrogance, right? When I sit down with him before the Volkanovski fight, and he even then sort of was acting like it was a foregone conclusion as to what was going to happen. He's not doing it in an arrogant, cocky, fight-selling way. Yeah. It's just rooted in the work. He says, I win the belt in the training camp.
Yeah, exactly. And we talked a little bit about his ability to learn from other fighters, both the positive and the negative. And I think that he's added in discipline to what some of the other greats maybe didn't have. He's added in consistency. So this is a guy that very much is putting in the work. And I think the scary thing is, and I believe him with that smirk that he has, is that he's like, you guys still haven't seen what I have to offer. I absolutely believe that he's got more tricks up his sleeve. There's a lot more combinations that he can throw that can wow audiences for years to come. I don't know how long he's going to be in this sport, but man, if there's one guy right now that can go undefeated and still face the elite of the elite, it's Ilia Topuria. Now, whether Islam Makhachev comes back, I don't know. I think Arman Tsarukyan, I think Islam Makhachev, those are fights that are really, really intriguing to me just because of the way that they match up. I don't want to get too far ahead, but what Ilia has done, I don't think there's any question that this is the best 3-fight win streak in UFC history. Look at the names, look what he's doing, and look at the ease in which he's doing it.
Great to have everybody with us live on a Monday on the Anik and Florian podcast as we go full throttle into our UFC 317 recap. It is now time for headlines brought to you by Cuervo, the tequila that invented tequila. So it, in fact, is Ilia Topuria's world. We are living in it as mixed martial arts prognosticators and fans and talking heads and everybody else as we spin this thing forward, right? Dana White expressed some regret that Paddy Pimblett was allowed to come into the octagon. And, sometimes the night sort of gets away from you a little bit, right? The Joshua Van thing, I think, had a lot of sensical value, right? He just had beaten the number one contender. There was not an obvious next in line for Alexandre Pantoja. You didn't have a situation like Arman Tsarukyan weighing in as the backup. Now, say what you want about Arman Tsarukyan, but certainly it was a step in the right direction, him weighing in as the backup. Yeah. Islam Makhachev never really wanted to leave the lightweight division, but we are no longer in an era in which the UFC is going to allow divisions to be held up so guys can pursue simultaneous 2-division championship runs, right? So not at all out of the realm of possibility that Islam Makhachev, win or lose against Jack Della Maddalena this year, could fight Ilia Topuria, next year. But herein lies part of the rub. I know you're smiling because that fight is just insane. And we kind of need to see it now. Before we wanted to see it, now we need to see it, I think.
Yeah.
But Ramadan factors in this equation, right? And that was part of it in terms of Islam Makhachev being forced to vacate. It's absolutely fucking fascinating to me right now that Ilia Topuria is a 2-division champion and Islam Makhachev is no longer a champion and is maybe the number one pound-for-pound fighter in the world. I mean, that's much ado about nothing, I guess, but it is kind of funny that Islam Makhachev is no longer a fucking champion when you go to UFC.com. I mean, what the fuck? But, no, I mean, I just think that, the Paddy Pimblett, I mean, Paddy Pimblett had a great last win, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't a situation like when Sean O'Malley fought Piotr Jan and Jan was the number one contender necessarily, right? Paddy Pimblett didn't fight the number one contender. But sometimes the champion, and I know I'm being long-winded here, but sometimes the champion gets the fight he wants, right?
Mm-hmm.
Paddy Pimblett and Movsar Ievloyev are two different beasts. Volkanovski badly wants the Ievloyev fight. Topuria badly wants the Paddy Pimblett fight, which is enormous. You know, do the math.
100%. And not every champion has the ability to kind of make their fights or tell the UFC, hey, I want this fight, and the UFC is going to go ahead and do it. Ilia Topuria at this point, based on what he's done, I know it's still relatively early in his career. Typically, this is a luxury given to guys like, let's say, a GSP at the end of his career, or a John Jones, for example, something like that, where they give you a lot of leeway in making these matches. But Ilia Topuria, just the fact that he's beaten all these guys and how quickly he's ascended to superstardom, he may be in the driver's seat here. And while I think that Oliveira probably does everything better that Paddy does, I still think it's an intriguing fight for the fans. Paddy knows how to build a fight. He knows how to make it exciting, number one, which the UFC and fans love. And he knows how to promote it. And these guys have a history. There's a whole drama leading up to this from, behind the scenes. And these guys genuinely do not like each other. So this is a fight that's been, a long time in the making. And at the end of the day, whatever organization we're talking about, boxing, mixed martial arts, they're going to make the fight that the fans want to see, and that's going to sell the best. And right now, if I'm being honest, it probably is the Paddy Pimblett Topuria fight.
I can't speak to exactly what the gap is skill for skill between Charles Oliveira and Paddy Pimblett, but you did leave one thing out. Scousers don't get knocked out.
This is true.
So,
well, I think that's a great point. It actually is Paddy Pimblett's chin has been tested time and time again, and the dude does not get knocked out. He does get hit. How that holds up against someone's power like Topuria's, I don't know. But Paddy's game, man. He's game. He's ready, and I think it would be a huge fight.
And Scousers really don't get knocked out, so I don't know if Ilia Topuria can buck that trend. We will see the direction in which they go. Just because Dana White didn't love Pimblett going in there doesn't mean that fight won't be made. I agree with Dana. What he didn't like was that Ilia Topuria just became a two-division champion. Not simultaneously, but he just became a two-division champion. So why are we matchmaking with the number 8 ranked contender to Capstone International Fight Week instead of sort of living in that win? I think that was Dana's point. That right. Even if Paddy Pimblett is deserving, we don't necessarily need to make that fight in the octagon right now, the way we made Pantoja ban. So
yeah, and I think that's fair.
Yeah. All right. Congratulations to Ilia Topuria, the stone cold assassin. Everything about the guy, man, just the smoothest fucking operator in the game. And, if that's not the number 1 pound for pound fighter in the sport, I really don't know who is. I mean, certainly Islam Makhachev is the guy for me. And I've said repeatedly, he doesn't lose a fight and thereby can't lose the number 1 spot. But, just when Merab Dvalishvili closes the gap and becomes number 2, Ilia Topuria does that and makes an even stronger case.
Well, you said it on the broadcast, how everything he does is calculated. And again, whether it's cultivated or whether it's actual and authentic, the whole shtick from the Matador from Spain to the way that he fights to the things that he says to how he dresses, the whole shtick is about as perfect of a persona as you can get in combat sports. I mean, it's like, again, if this was WWE, it'd be an amazing character, but this is real life fighting. This is real deal fighting. And the dude does everything he's going to say, everything he says he's going to do, he goes out there and executes it beautifully. Like, what more can you say?
Well, and sometimes I joke about not wanting to ask fighters stupid questions in the fighter meetings. But one thing that you really have to be cautious of is that if you are not prepared for a fighter meeting with a guy like Ilia Topuria, he's very short of win. Part of that is because there's no competitive advantage to give you a bunch of shit when you ask him if he would have taken like a non-title fight at 55. But very quick answers mean you better have a next question, right? He is next level, man. And I will say, I got starstruck when Charles Oliveira walked into that fighter meeting. I've interviewed Charles a million times, and for whatever reason, he comes in there with the blonde hair and the entourage, and I get all up in my feelings, and I can't formulate questions.
Charles is awesome, man. Again, like you even heard Topuria after the fight. He's like, I never want to fight another guy like Charles Oliveira. He's like, I love that guy. He's like, I have so much respect for him. He said it was really hard on fight week to go against someone like Charles Oliveira. And, you know, I think also he's very appreciative of the fact that, you know, as fighters, we're able to rob everything from that person in a way, right? It's like when you beat someone like Charles Oliveira, people take notice. And he understood very well that if he beat someone like Charles Oliveira, that was only going to make him that much more of a star. He's appreciative of the opportunity. And again, the class of Charles Oliveira going over, you know, them having that embrace after the fight, talking to each other, all the respect that they showed before the fight, after the fight. Charles is the man, a true martial artist through and through. Love the guy. He's going to have more fights in the octagon at a high level. He's still going to be a fan favorite. And again, he's a big reason why that fight was so exciting and such a huge win for Topuria.
I think Charles Oliveira might just be the most beloved fighter on the roster right now in terms of with his peers, with the fans. And you're right. I think there's a lot of fight left in the dog for him. As long as the hunger's there, he's made a lot of money, of course.
Yeah.
Financial freedom doesn't even begin to describe it, but he's still very much relevant, and he's still going to beat a lot of guys in that top 10. We'll see how long he sticks around, but just dripping with class, the UFC legend Charles "Do Bronx" Oliveira. All right, Ken Flo. Alexandre Pantoja. I mean, this might be my favorite fighter, man. My goodness, 4 successive flyweight title defenses. He has taken on a number of unique challenges. He's dealt with rematches. He's dealt with wars. You know, he's getting close to 40 pro fights, not even including exhibitions, having never been finished. Hard work, dedication. I don't have enough good things to say about Alexandre Pantoja, and I feel really good for him to have gotten this win, you know, to sort of, you know, continue this 2-year victory lap, I guess.
He is a grappling dynamo, man. You know, the things that he's able to pull off inside the octagon, and again, just like Topuria, making it look easy, of course, in a different way with his grappling skill, not his striking skill, makes him, I think, maybe the most underrated fighter in the UFC at the present moment as far as champions go. For my money, I think that Pantoja is so fun to watch. And again, a guy who has mastered the basics and fundamentals, the way he's taking the back of Kai Kara-France, the frustration on Kai Kara-France's face during the fight. It was just like, man, this is not the way I thought it was going to go. He thought he was going to be able to get up a lot of these instances. The way that Pantoja was kicking the feet out of Kai Kara-France, not allowing him to get base and connection to the floor to get back to his feet, was a thing of beauty. If you're a grappler, especially if you're a guy who likes to take the back, study Pantoja. Man, is he good. And it's almost like one of those things is like, when you are so good at your craft and you get something like a back position, it's a matter of fact, is dead to rights type position where Pantoja takes your back. It's like Gretzky getting the puck in front of the net. It's going to be a goal. It's going to be a rear naked choke. And man, beautiful to watch.
And dude, I know it is beautiful to watch. Like, I absolutely love watching a guy get the body locked down, get the body triangle, and eventually, right? It really is a thing of beauty. And certainly it was something that was a big part of your game. So, you know, when you talk sort of about taking everything that a guy has worked for, you know, the way you did to like Joe Lozon in the main event in 2008, right? A couple of Massachusetts guys, right? And you take everything the guys worked for, you know? And it's a really hard reality that Kai Kara-France steps into now, because you did an appearance on Submission Radio after UFC 317, and one of the commenters wrote that he will go to his grave knowing that you beat Jose Aldo. Right now, correct? You were up 2-1 after 3 on my scorecard, but I don't know that you even thought you beat Jose Aldo. But the point here is that you got stuff done in that fight. You got stuff done in the Sean Shirk fight. You got some stuff done in the BJ Penn fight, even if that wasn't maybe the best of those 3, right? But for Kai Kara-France, Kenny, he put in the training camp of a fucking lifetime and didn't get anything done. And now you go back and, I don't know if it's that big a gap between you and the best in the world, or that Pantoja is just leaps and bounds a grappler above you. But this has got to be a really hard pill to swallow, that you think you do everything and it's no fucking contest.
Yeah, I mean, this is what masters make you feel like. And Pantoja, again, just like Topuria, but in a different way, is a grappling master. Make no mistake about it. And yeah, this is the importance of knowing yourself and knowing thy enemy, right? Just like Sun Tzu used to say. And Pantoja didn't, yes, he's gotten better as a striker, but just like Khabib Nurmagomedov, he does enough of what he needs to do to get to that clinch and get those takedowns. Because once you're on your back, boy, you're not going anywhere. It's a parking spot, and he's going to pin your shoulders down to the mat. And the only way you're going to get up or change position is by him taking your back. He's just that good. He has a methodology. He has a system down pat. And there's very few people that have that level of control. And for a jiu-jitsu guy, John, from Brazil, to have these beautiful takedowns, like the way that he integrates it into his striking and create that motion to put you on your back and keep you constantly off balance, is amazing to watch. Kai Kara-France, I thought got off to a pretty good start. But after that takedown in round 1, and when he got his back taken, he seemed so hesitant and so fearful of throwing any punches after that in round 2, which only allowed Pantoja to be that much more aggressive. He's got so many different things that he can throw at you that I don't see anybody beating him for a long time. I think only, Pantoja himself can beat himself. I don't see him stopping this hard work ethic at all. Just the way that he came up, of where he comes from, I don't think he's like that, to just kind of throw it all away. This is a guy that I think is going to be very, very close, if not surpass what Demetrius Johnson had done in that division.
It's absolutely incredible, and doing it in an even more modern era, right? Demetrius Johnson won 12 UFC flyweight title fights, 11 successive title defenses. And I actually thought he got that 12th one against Henry Cejudo, but certainly DJ on most Mount Rushmores of MMA and will reside there into eternity. But what Pantoja has done, him and Pahumpa have now won 5 straight UFC flyweight championship fights, right? They waited a year after they beat Alex Perez to get the championship opportunity, summer of 2023. And now he's been an absolute workhorse. In 2 years, less than, he's won 5 UFC flyweight title fights. And in terms of preparing for someone like Pantoja, when Dustin Poirier was getting ready for Khabib Nurmagomedov, there's a methodology to the training, right? You start in these bad positions and you try to get up. And I think some trainers would be like, no. We're going to avoid that at all costs and make it the most boring fight in UFC history. Easier said than done, because Pantoja just has a way of getting it there and, to your point, sort of mixing the wrestling beautifully. But if you are prepping for Pantoja, right, I mean, you need to avoid that fate at all costs. How do you prepare for somebody like that? I know it's a hard question.
Yeah, well, I would say you need to find maybe some of the best jiu-jitsu guys on the planet, get 1 or 2 of them to come out and take your back, so you know what that feels like. Not all positions, or not all practitioners are created equal. You get a guy who can take your back, who's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, and then you get someone else, and it feels totally different. That's what a master brings to the table. Pantoja is just that. Even the way that he tripods, so he'll come up and kind of put his head in your face, which takes away your ability to get up completely. And if not, he's wrapping up your legs so you can't get back to your feet. So he has a beautiful system of what he does, similar to a Damian Maia, of what he does to get amazing control. I think his takedowns are that much better than Maia's in the 125-pound division. So, yeah, you got to bring in elite guys. You got to work that position. You got to work your escapes. You have to work on the different layers. There's the aspect of defending from the turtle position when they're trying to take your back. There's the position of defending it with 1 hook. There's the position of defending it with 2 hooks. There's the position of defending it with the body triangle. And going through all those different layers and putting in the work, I don't think you can do it in one camp, John. I think that's the problem. You can't do it in one training camp. You got to do this in 3 or 4 training camps. That's how good Pantoja is, and that's the kind of preparation you need against master champions like him.
All right, let's get to the star of the program as we go 3 wide and welcome in Raymond Peter Longo.
Oh, there they are.
Hey!
Uh-oh. The hell's my hair? We're going to have to deal with it.
That looks beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, sorry for keeping you waiting. I didn't see the chat. I'm going on my cell phone today because my Wi-Fi is failing me. How we doing, Raymond?
Oh, wow, doing good. We didn't wait. I would love listening to Kenny's analysis of Pantoja, and I do agree with him. You can't get a guy who's not squared away and do it in the camp. But the whole idea is, by the time you hit this show, you really should be squared away enough, Kenny, I think, where you could bring in an expert and make those adjustments. Like, if you can't make those adjustments, I don't think you belong there. I mean, that's a big gap, But, yeah, if you're just the average guy doing this and you're used to maybe the striking and didn't put the time into the grappling, yeah, one camp ain't going to do it against this guy. Even the way he kept going back to the choke. I mean, it had to be like 10 times in a row. The guy would pull his hand down. It was like a slow death. He kind of just tortured him. But kids on a roll, man. I don't know who's going to beat him in that division.
And it wasn't like Kai Kara France wasn't trying. He was doing everything he could, man. He fought with that champion mindset. He did everything he could. It just wasn't enough. Pantoja's just so good.
Yeah, really good. Fun watching him fight. Really is.
So, Ray, I'm excited to pick your brain on all things UFC 317, but my goodness, man, I have to start with this. You can barely even do your laundry after Azerbaijan and Aljamain Sterling has to book a fight in fucking China.
Yeah, well, that's not the problem. The problem is Trump torturing what's the guy's name? Is General
Xi Jinping? Xi Jinping.
Yeah. He's something will happen when everybody's over there. That's the issue. Not going to China.
No, but I just feel like, Aljamain Sterling, if you don't know, is fighting T-City Brian Ortega later this year in Shanghai, I believe. But no, Ray, I just mean we talked over the last several weeks just about the international travel and for, UFC coaches and cornermen and cutmen and referees and staff. So I just think it's kind of funny. You guys are going far and wide for non-title fights. You're going to fucking China. That's all.
I mean, that seems like a punishment for Aljo. Oh yeah, your next fight's in Guam. Hope you enjoy it. Yeah, you can only get there because there's only 17 layovers, but you'll be there in a day and a half. But have fun.
I just had to. That was all I thought about. But it's a great booking, and it's a big fight, and it's a 3-round co-main event. And I know the magnitude of that fight is not lost on you. But I don't even know where to begin. I guess I'd love to get your thoughts on Ilia Topuria knocking out Charles Oliveira. The kid calls his shot. He's more relaxed in combat than anyone I've ever seen, and adds another highlight to his insane reel.
Yeah, I mean, look, man, the beauty is in the simplicity. I mean, he's got really great. Look, we've been through it before. He knows how to punch and balance. His combinations are good. Even what he did to him, he's kind of jab him. He's in, he's out, he's in, he's out, he's out, he's in. And like when you're coming in, he's coming in. He just set that up perfectly. And the kid obviously he's got bricks in his hands because it's just the way he's winning. He's knocking the shit out of everybody. I mean, it's not, they're out. I mean, that's pretty damn impressive, man. And if you look at it, Kenny, it's nothing fancy. He's not spinning. There's no crazy angles off of punches. It's good, solid takedown defense, which he looked great against Charles, and he could keep that fight where he wants it. And the more times he does that, the more times that's going to be to his advantage. And I just thought it was a thing of beauty, man. And it was funny. And I'm not criticizing, but just about I think as Joe Rogan was starting to say, I don't know if his power is because he was hitting Charles. I don't know if his power is going to translate to 155, which we were all kind of curious. Right at that moment, boom, boom, 2 shots, the guy's out. Crazy. Like the timing couldn't have been better, but his power looks like it transfers over. And I don't know. He looks good. He's confident. 27 years old. This is insanity.
Ray, I said the same thing about his fundamentals. I'm just wowed by them because these are the things that I think people kind of don't really appreciate. And this is what happens when you get a kid who's starting the sport early on. And he's able to develop this for years and master them. But have you seen, or is there another striker like Ilia Topuria out there right now? Is he the best striker in the sport from what you've seen? And I'll ask you the same question that John asked me. Is this the best 3-fight win streak in UFC history?
Listen, 3 knockouts against 3 legends it has to be by far the best 3-fight win streak. I can't. That's not my game anyway. My memory's shot, but there's no way you're beating that. I mean, those are three legends that just got decimated. I mean, I don't know. I mean, what was the first question?
Is he the best striker in the sport from what you've seen right now?
I mean, Kenny, you got to go to the results. I mean, he's KOing everybody. Like, I think Izzy Adesanya was a great striker, right? But there were times he was playing it safe against Romero and maybe some of the other fights. This motherfucker's coming forward. He don't give a shit, man. I mean, he believes in himself, and again, he's still young enough to. Where is this guy going to be at 29? We haven't even had a kind of a hiccup with him, and I don't know. I think he's the best striker based on his power and his fundamentals. Yeah, I'm going to say he's the best striker.
So, just looking at Jon Jones's resume, I actually think this 3-fight winning streak is pretty fucking good. I would give the nod to Topuria, but Kenflo and Raymond, hear me out just for a second. Mauricio Shogun Rua, right? That win for Jon Jones, the way he did that was I think singularly almost as good as any of these 3 wins. Okay, then he
at 21 years old or whatever it was,
Right. So that singularly, I think, is as good as any of those wins for Ilia with respect to Volkan, Holloway, and Charles. Right then, pretty epic fight against Quentin Rampage Jackson next, right? And then what he did to Lyoto fucking Machida. So, like, when you look at Jon, there are other pockets where the 3-fight winning streak isn't as good, and there are a lot of decisions, right? We mentioned last week on the show, Jon Jones double-digit decision wins in the UFC. But Shogun, Rampage, Lyoto like that, it's a pretty good fucking streak. But it ain't necessarily, leaving 3 guys in coffins back to back to back like this, just completely stretch it out.
Yeah, I mean, but how dare you compare a cheetah to an upstanding citizen like Ilia Topuria?
You guys are acting, though. People are acting as though Jon Jones was like some serial steroid abuser, though, right?
Do you know? Do you know?
Well,
do you know?
I mean,
I don't know.
There's the picogram thing, right? That obviously, I mean, there was more than one transgression. Don't make me sit here and be some Jon Jones defender apologist, but the public record does not show him as some anabolic steroid abuser at all. So, never failed a drug test for, I don't think, an anabolic like steroid, But anyway,
wow.
We don't need to have that conversation today. That's
no, don't even go that. You could talk about it all you want. I mean, that's one of those questions. If you know, you know. If you don't know, you don't know. But whatever.
So when you look at a young Jon Jones beating Lyoto Machida, you feel like that was like steroid induced? I mean, is that what you're saying, or you just don't know? I guess. Huh?
At the end of the day, there's going to be an asterisk on the guy's scorecard.
Do we think that the drug testing right now is as stringent as it was when USADA was here? Certainly fucking not. So
I mean, I wouldn't know. I see the guys come to the gym just as often, but I have no idea about that.
Well, anyway, whatever you want to say about this 3-fight run, in terms of Ilia Topuria moving forward, right? You have the number 1 contender, Arman Tsarukyan, who just weighed in as a backup, right? You do have Justin Gaethje, but it seems like he might be the odd man out. And then you have the guy that Ilia Topuria wants to fight in Paddy Pimblett. Now, if Alexander Volkanovski, after he beat Diego Lopez, got on a mic emphatically and said, and it's not his job as the champion, but he keeps injecting the name Movsar Evloev into the equation. So if he gets on the mic and says, hey, UFC, you want me to clean up this fucking Movsar Evloev mess? He's an I-know in the UFC. Let me defend my title against that fucking guy, and I'm going to knock him out. They'll probably make the fight, right? But he didn't necessarily do that, and Movsar Evloev is a wrestler that people don't necessarily think is entertaining, right? Juxtaposed against Paddy Pimblett, is flying around the world with his blonde hair and knocks people out and So you can understand why that fight has some merit. But what do you think is going to happen with Ilia Topuria in his first lightweight title defense, Ray?
Oh, look, I was confused by Paddy Pimblett getting in the cage, like totally confused. I don't know where he got injected into that, but I think that the toughest fight for Ilia would be Zarukian.
Yeah.
And I think that's a fight everybody look. I think after what he did to Charles, everybody would love to see. And I've been calling for that fight, Topuria against Islam at 55, if that's a possibility. That is the fight. If that's not the fight, I mean, as far as tough fights and worthy challenges, I'd go with Zarukian. And that's not an easy fight either, So that's he put some excitement in. I mean, that was always exciting, that division, but he adds a new, a new wrinkle in there that we have to iron out. So I think it's great for the division, and you could start tomorrow, but I don't think Pimblett's getting that shot. Am I wrong with that, or?
So you hit on a lot of truths. So it looks like maybe October would be the month that Jack Della Maddalena would defend his welterweight title against Islam Makhachev, and then you have Ramadan, I think maybe in February. I don't know exactly, but Ilia Topuria said that if they need him in December, he'll fight in December. Otherwise, we'll see him next year, So the notion that someone like Islam Makhachev would fight in October and then December, it's just not going to happen the way he has run his career. So I think the calendar is going to play into this, but I just don't think that even though I think we're all in agreement that maybe Paddy shouldn't have been in the octagon and instead it should have been a celebration of Ilia winning a belt in the second division, I think promotionally there's going to be a strong push from somebody in that room to make the Pimblett and not the Tsarukyan fight.
Wow. I'd be in shock if they did that, but
really,
what are the qualifications for getting in the ring after a guy wins a fight?
Well, no, you're right. No, I totally agree.
What are the
Dana didn't like it, right?
I have no idea, but what are the qualifications? Like, somebody's got to know about it. I mean, not every fight somebody jumps in the octagon after. What the hell are the qualifications?
Well, no, you're right. When Shavkat Rakhmonov beat Ian Machado Gary and was the rightful next title challenger, right? Like Bilal Muhammad had a hard time getting past security to get in there. I know Trump was in the building, but you're right. Like, there needs to be a method to the madness. Like, it seemed as though there was some forethought to the Joshua Van thing, and there wasn't necessarily to this.
Yeah, right.
I know Topuria had said something in a post-fight press, not a post-fight press conference, but it was just an interview after his fight, and someone mentioned, I forget the lady's name, but she mentioned Gaethje, who is an absolute legend, and Topuria said something to the fact of, "You must not like Justin Gaethje." And I was like, my goodness, the dude's an absolute savage. Now, I think Gaethje's a guy, right, who is not going to be shy to trade with Topuria. He's got knockout power. Topuria is not invincible. But I think that'd be an exciting fight. How long it lasts, I don't know. But, Gaethje, I think, is in the conversation a little bit. I would maybe put him maybe a little bit above Paddy Pimblett at this stage of the game, but I do agree with you, Ray. I think Arman Tsarukyan, from a stylistic standpoint, is probably the biggest threat.
Yeah, I think so. I just, what it is, even in Gaethje's obviously he's a fucking animal, but this is a young animal, man, 27. Yeah. Dude, that's going to be, forget about how good he is. Every day this clock's ticking, it's to his advantage with some of these guys. It just is. I mean, like, again, 2 years, he's going to be 29. I mean, think about it. 29. Crazy. Think of the resume he's going to have. Unless
he's not going to get worse.
Yeah, it's not going to get worse. I mean,
his skills aren't going to get worse. He's going to get better.
No, he's even if he just maintains where he is and he stays healthy, that's enough. But the I mean, if there's a kind of a floor, it's that he's actually tiny for 55. He's not a big 55er. So for him to go up there and still keep that knockout power and obviously his speed, I don't know. We haven't even gotten to his wrestling and jiu-jitsu yet. Technically, that's what we have to, like, when he's really forced in those areas. Yeah, how is he going to react? So there's a
that's his best area. That's his best area.
Well, can we
talk
about
fighting?
Can we talk about that? Because we didn't talk about that. The grappling part of it, Ray, it's like that counter that he did, it looked like Charles Oliveira was almost dead to rights on that body lock takedown. It was like it was going to happen. Oh no, looks like Topuria is going to be on his back. And then the athleticism that Jon Anik's talking about, like he switches his hips last second, gets on top, and then as soon as Oliveira opened his legs from guard, he passed. He made it look like Oliveira was a white belt. He went right into Neon's stomach in like a second. Oliveira did a great job getting out of it as Topuria was trying to get to mount. Then went right into that slick footlock. But man, I mean that's the thing. It's like, where do you beat the guy?
Yeah.
Where are you supposed to beat the guy? What are you supposed to do to him exactly?
Yeah, and Kenny, not for nothing. And I know you love the guy, and I always love seeing this guy. But what he did to Ryan Hall, who's a freak off his back,
right?
That was the start of like, all right, well, who the hell wants to fight Ryan Hall?
Right. And in the preparation for all of those fights of how good he's got, it's like, man, if you're going to be able to prep for a guy like Ryan Hall and his leg locks, Oliveira is not going to be that big of a deal. So all the fight, like everything this dude has done has been extremely well calculated, as Jon Anik has said. Every move, he's playing chess. Everyone else is playing checkers, man. And he's got the skills to back it up. This is as complete a mixed martial arts fighter in every aspect, business-wise, what he says, how he goes about his business. It's unreal. This is what happens when you study the sport inside and out and you start at an early age and you bring this package into the octagon that people just aren't ready for.
And Kenny, I got to tell you, I have to believe, too, just having the support of his family. Again, I'm going back. He's 27. He's got a beautiful wife, beautiful kid. It's just it's everything. It's everything. And you could see he's got belief in himself, belief in the people around him. And that's when the magic happens. And he's got really great fundamentals, solid. Yeah. You know what I mean?
His son's going to be in the UFC too.
You might.
Ray.
They might be in there at the same time at this point.
So, Ray, we were definitely on the same wavelength as Kenny was talking. I wrote down, Ryan Hall and Bryce Mitchell are two of the best grapplers in the featherweight division, and he was able to dispose of those guys. So, in terms of the power translating and moving up, right? Like, I think now, yes, Alex Pineda might be afforded the opportunity to chase the heavyweight title, but that's not going to be the next fight or the next one after that, most likely, right? So the notion that, like, if Islam Makhachev were to beat Jack Della Maddalena, that somehow maybe Ilia would get the chance to move up to 70, right? I can't even say it seriously, but, like, if you had to send one welterweight in there to beat Ilia Topuria, right? Certainly you're going to find one of the size guys, maybe it's like a Sean Brady or maybe like Shavkat Rakhmonov. I don't know, but like, Ray, if you had to send a welterweight in there to beat Ilia, who's your guy?
I don't.
You know what someone said to me? They said if he fights Joaquin Buckley, he's going to knock him out cold. And I'm thinking Joaquin Buckley could eat Topuria for dinner, like size-wise.
Yeah, I mean, there does come a point when that's going to eventually really matter.
Right.
Yeah, 100%. I think we're pushing it. I mean, you could probably find, obviously, look, first off, there's no question in my mind, Kenny, I think you'll agree, he could beat a lot of 170s, but when it gets up to the top, man, that shit starts to matter. And that would be a big ask.
Kenny, Max Holloway said that he wanted to take a fight at 85 before his UFC career was over.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, well, he has a taller frame than Ilia Topuria and all that stuff. But I'll say this: as good as Topuria is, I think these would be the kind of decisions that would ultimately be his downfall. It's you go out throughout history, with war or whatever. when Alexander the Great, all these other guys that decided to go, you know what, Genghis Khan, let's go to this other country. Let's go to this other country. Let's go to this other country. Let's take over this. Let's take over that. When you start to get too far out of your powers and you believe you're something that you're not, that's when you can get yourself in trouble. And I say it all the time. It's like, I love it. I love when guys go up a weight class or maybe down a weight class. But when you start to go too much, I think that's when you're going to start to get those losses. And Ilia Topuria, I think, should be very happy being a 2-division champion and going out undefeated. I think there's no shame in that. You don't need to go another weight class, my man. And apparently Ilia said that a part of this deal was the UFC said, whatever you do, if you beat Charles Oliveira, please don't say you're going to go up to welterweight.
Right,
Please
right.
don't do it. So, and I agree with that. That's what the UFC should do, because just stay in your division. Be the man in your division, bro. Like, just be happy with that.
Yeah, and John, trust me, he could be. He's gonna. I go back to like BJ Penn fighting Lyoto Machida at like 205.
205.
BJ's not a big guy either, and he fought in all different weight classes. And I mean, Kenny, you could attest to it. You fought in 3 freaking weight classes. That's correct, right?
Yeah,
4.
Yeah, but I'll say this so people know the context of this. Like, so I fought in the UFC. This is how old I am. I fought in the UFC when they didn't have a 155 division.
Yeah,
so
crazy.
I took the opportunity to fight on the Ultimate Fighter at 185. And then I went to the welterweight division because that was the smallest weight class that they had at the time. So, yes, I fought at 185, and yes, I fought at 170, but I really was a 155er through and through. Even when I fought 145, I was 155er. But anyways, just so people will be like, yeah, but Kenny, you fought in 4 weight classes. What are you talking about? All right, now you understand.
Yeah, but Kenny, but you can attest to the difference in size, and
especially now in 2025.
Yeah, especially now, right? Back then, it was a little right.
Yeah, I'd be dead if I fought at those weight classes today.
Because back then you could be a jiu-jitsu guy. You were tapping out 220-pound guys. It didn't matter because the level of expertise wasn't where it is today.
Right.
But now, like everything matters. I say every pound matters at this point.
And that's what makes what Topuria has done so special. It's like in an era where all these amazing teams are coming together, and we have so much more knowledge than we did back then, and everyone kind of knows the right way for the most part how to train, and and we know how to prep. Topuria is still doing this. He's still making guys look like they're in their UFC debut. Right. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And again, and you got to love this, John, too. He's training in Spain, right? With a big camp. Right. He's not like, oh, we got a great room, iron sharpens iron. This guy's beating the shit out of people at his own. He's doing it his way.
That's special.
And leading into the fight, right? Like, he gives you so much bulletin board material if you're the opposition, right? Like an NFL coach would be having a field day. He's on embedded saying, man, poor Charles. Like, this is just not going to end well. I really don't want to do this to Charles. And then he gets asked about Justin Gaethje, as Ken Flo said, and he's like, man, you guys must really not like Justin. Do you understand the gravity of that matchup for Justin? Like, it's insane the way he talks, and then all those words become actions, and it's just so matter of fact. It's like nothing I've really seen. I know there are McGregor comparisons to be drawn, but this guy I think is even that next level.
Definitely. Oh no, this guy's a stone cold killer when he gets in there. I mean, he's the thing is too, he's not hitting you with one punch. He is putting his combos together. Like he steps in the pocket. He's like, you could see he knocked him out with the cross. He hit him with the hook, but the guy was already out. See, that was my thing going into the fight, because I did, predict a KO one with a couple other people. It's just that I knew he wasn't going to be the type of guy to hit him once Charles goes to his ass. Right. He's not really out. This guy's a finisher, man. He's coming guns blazing, and just go back and look at it. It was like a dance, in and out, in and out, in and out, and boom.
And Ray,
kind of let him right in.
And Ray, how many guys look exactly the same in a fight that they do on the pads? Like, everything he does on the pads is actually what he does during a fight. Like, it looks just as crisp, just as fundamentally sound. You're like, my goodness.
Because that's the key. It's fundamentally sound.
Yeah.
Like, you're not looking.
Yeah.
The beauty is in the simplicity. It's not like he's running all over. He's doing cartwheel kicks 100%. In the middle of everything. The beauty is in the simplicity of what he's doing. And then, he goes out and he does it. Look,
Well-
it's always up to the fighter. It's phenomenal to watch. And man, Georgia is on the map with these two guys, man. Between
telling
him
you.
and Marab,
Yeah.
that's pretty
Well,
dominant.
and congrats to you for picking Topuria by knockout along with the rest
Oh,
of the
I don't know if I
world.
did on the show. I just in a couple of group chats.
Yeah,
I
well,
was-
congrats. Congrats. You really went out on a fucking limb. Nice to know.
Well, but John, just to say, because I don't even like I hate predictions. This one, I
Right.
kind of knew that guy was getting knocked out. I was I don't know.
Right.
Whatever, I
You
don't-
have somebody, actually, maybe it's Steve Lee, former friend of the Anik Florian podcast, filming you for your own filming you for your own fucking Instagram, being like, Ray, give us a pick. It's like, that's good content, boys. Really fucking good. Way to go.
Wow.
Hey,
what a
No, I
What
mean,
we-
you come at Team Muhammad, you come at me. You know?
what the hell?
So can we transition to Joshua Van and Pantoja and all of that if we could, Ray? We got about 5 more minutes with the absolute legend, the future Hall of Famer, Ray Longo. So exciting times for the men at 125 pounds. We spent a lot of time waxing poetic about Pantoja, but I guess, Ray, I'll just start with you on Pantoja, just an amazing champion, and now he's got a next fight already against the 8th youngest fighter in the UFC.
Look, this kid. What I was impressed with Joshua Van and Topuria was the size difference and how they were able to break range and get what they want. It's really a beautiful display of footwork, simple footwork. You know what I mean? Like not, all over the place. But both of those guys were able to make up for a big height difference and get what they wanted, which I thought was just unbelievable. So I thought that fight deserved whatever accolades it got. It was a great fight. Royval's just a tough out for anybody. He's tough. And the fight was close. Optics, the other guy's face was a little mashed up. So I think that played into it. Very close fight, but man, Van that's the fight of his life so far. And that was
you're
great,
right
great
though,
fight.
Ray. You're absolutely right. Like Brandon Royval at the end of the fight, he was like, fuck, right? Because up until that last minute or so, that third round sort of hung in the balance, and maybe the fight did as well. Kenny, love to get your thoughts on the fight of the night. It'll hold up in the fight of the year conversation. For me, even though I was not in Azerbaijan, I still think Nicholas Moda and Nazim Sadikov, for me, I would vote for that fight over this one, even though, and I know people might think I'm crazy, even though this fight between Van and Royval, Kenny, was the first time in UFC history that both combatants had landed more than 200 significant strikes, and it was not even a 25-minute fight.
That's insane. I'm trying to wrap my head around that. Well, first of all, the Naz Mota fight was awesome. The Sadikov Mota fight was awesome. I think that Sadikov really there was that spot where he was hurt, but largely he was pretty dominant. I think in the fight, I think there was a little bit more of a balance of a back and forth in this fight between Royval and Van. I think that it was awesome. And considering the fact that Van, again, it was a 3-week turnaround, he had a broken toe or something like that heading into that fight, which, I'm not sure people can appreciate. Yeah, it's just a little toe, but you got to move around the octagon. Footwork's kind of a big part of moving around the octagon. And the fact that Van was able to be this impressive at such a young age against an absolute beast in Royval, who was so game, who did everything possible to win, but Van was just that much sharper on the feet, man. I thought it was an unbelievable performance by both men. For me, it's the fight of the year right now. And yeah, I mean, Van did exactly what he needed to do to get that championship opportunity. Not only did he win, he did in dynamic fashion. What a freaking fight, dude. I was jumping up and down. I've seen a lot of fights, okay? I've seen a lot of fights. I'm a former professional mixed martial artist. I don't get too wowed, too often. And man, I was jumping out of my seat watching that fight.
I mean, look, the only difference with me with Naz's fight is it had that element of, he might have lost the fight. The comeback makes that fight just unbelievable. This one was technically better because it was back and forth, very even. But when you come back from you're against the cage, you take 75 punches, and then you walk forward, and the next round,
It was a rocky.
Yeah, it's
story,
a right. He has a
yeah.
rocky story in front of his hometown. I don't think you're beating that, to be honest with you. But this fight,
awesome.
from a technical standpoint, back and forth, could have went either way. Nobody wanted to give in. You know what I mean? It was that was a great fight for Joshua Van because it was so competitive, and it's going to carry. You know, it's going to do him well moving forward in the future. And you could see he had the burning desire to win, and just the transition. Which I just want to say one thing about too. I thought Peyton Talbot, after coming back from a loss against a really good guy, showed me a lot, man. He's still a raw piece of clay, but it looked like something clicked for this guy. He had his aha moment. He could have. This kid was good that he fought.
Yeah,
and he beat him down. Like he did not want to lose. That's what I like. That's like the burning desire to win. That's what I was looking at.
Yes, 1,000%.
Hats off to Peyton Talbot because I came out strong with him. He had a glitch, but now what he did to me, based on a lot of different things, was absolutely phenomenal. Loved the way he handled the mic, and you could see he's interested. He's internally trying to figure out what's going on, and he's doing a great job. Great fight for him to get past. I'm really, really happy to see that.
I'm so glad you said that, because not just in terms of the strength and conditioning and making his body work better for the weight class, but everything in terms of the preparation, responsiveness from the first career loss, right? We oftentimes talk about a loss being a good thing for a fighter. I'm not sure that there's a better sort of, poster child for that than Peyton Talbot beating Felipe Lima like this. And Lima, Kenny and I will get to that fight probably on the backside of your appearance. Anything else you want to touch on? I want to be respectful for your time, Raymond, before we let you go. Okay. Hey, thank you, buddy. We love you. And we're actually dark next week for the holiday. So enjoy the week off.
Wow. All right. Listen, I'll say it now. Happy 4th of July, guys.
Yes, you too, buddy.
If you need a good party, you're pretty close, John. I got you covered.
I'm going to come see you. I'm going to come surprise you guys at the gym. Hopefully Steve Lee lets me in.
You pick some time to banish us from your friends list. Just move next to us. Perfect timing. Hey, take it easy, guys. I'll see you later.
See you, Ray.
Love you, Ray.
Love you too.
It is so amazing. I said Jon Jones is perpetually misunderstood, and I think a lot of public figures feel perpetually misunderstood. Man, am I misunderstood by Team Longo if they think that I was the driving force of this, They start talking about Bilal's fighting style putting people to sleep after his back-to-back fights against Leon Edwards and Jack Della Maddalena. So, what exactly are you fucking watching? So
I love the rivalry.
So in terms of the Peyton Talbot thing, I can't emphasize enough how much respect I have for this athlete in accepting this fight as an underdog against Felipe Lima. That was all the rage, according to so many onlookers. And I think for Felipe Lima, for whatever reason, he just didn't stick to his striking or have the confidence in his striking. And I think that might have produced a different result. But I thought Peyton looked fantastic. He was so present during the week and so present in fight.
Yeah, and I agree with the analysis on Felipe Lima. I certainly got it wrong. I thought that perhaps he was a better grappler than what he showed. I think when his takedowns were failing, I think mentally he kind of checked out a little bit later in that fight. I think he was frustrated that he wasn't able to complete a lot of those positions against Talbot. Started off great. I think he was landing some great punches as well. And again, John, I don't know why he didn't go back to his striking. Maybe it was exhaustion. I think that definitely played a part in it. He was a little frustrated. He was a little bit tired. But I don't know what happened to those sharp combinations that he was showing in round 1 and part of round 2. They kind of went away, and he tried to take him down repeatedly. And a lot of those takedowns were just sloppy, or at least, maybe not technical enough against Talbot. But I agree with what Ray said. I think Talbot did a lot of his homework extremely well coming back from that loss. You're never quite sure how someone's going to come back. He looked focused, he looked composed, and he looked prepared.
Last thing on Joshua Van, who should probably be sleeping with another human being on his back if he really wants to beat Pantoja here in 3 or 4 months, right? So that Joshua Van's going to have youth on his side, the cardiovascular base, certainly youth factors prominently historically in these equations when it comes to title fights. Pantoja is on the other side of 35. But Pantoja just fought an experienced mixed martial arts athlete with over 30 pro fights who had prepared for him before, who has a wealth of UFC knowledge and made it look relatively easy. Now we have Joshua Van, who certainly I think you can argue is a maybe tighter boxer than Pantoja, but how do you handicap that fight in a few months? Because Joshua Van is a guy who had only wrestled for 6 months before he made his UFC debut.
Yeah, which is absolutely insane. And I don't know if it's just youth, youthful ignorance, or whether he's the kind of guy who rises to the challenge. And I think it's the latter. I think he's just super composed and nothing really phases him. Yeah. But he's certainly going to need that. But John, it takes a lot more than just that. It's not just your confidence. It's not just your youth. It's not just your physicality. You have to go in there against, in a fight against Pantoja, extremely well prepared. And I couldn't agree more. He should be sleeping with someone on his back at all times in preparation for this fight. I think the longer timeline, the better. It takes a long time to get better on the grappling front. So his back defense is going to have to be on point, but more than anything else, I think his takedown defense is going to have to be on point. If he's able to win that battle, then his striking can come to fruition and he can expose, whatever, potential vulnerability we see with Pantoja on the feet. And I think that is the weakest part of Pantoja's game, but that's not necessarily a weak part of his game. Right. Pantoja can strike as well. And I think he'll have a little bit of a length advantage, I think, in that fight against Van. But Van is a spectacular striker, John. I mean, he showed that in that fight against Royval. Special, really, really special. The combinations, the counters, the speed, the toughness, nothing seemed to faze him. So all those things are great things, but this fight will be won and lost with his grappling preparation.
Yeah. You might have heard DC say that Andre Ward saw Joshua Van fight Bruno Silva live and just was absolutely marveling at the boxing skills. And yeah, Pantoja's a great Muay Thai striker, but certainly there's a path of least resistance, or so it would appear.
Yes.
Yeah, if I'm Joshua Van and I have a girlfriend, every time I take a piss for the next 6 months, she's getting on my fucking back and we're walking to the bathroom,
Exactly.
Congrats to Beneil Dariush getting a win for the first time in a long time. I thought he looked really good against Renato Moicano. I thought his kicking game looked fantastic. Yeah. Really happy for him. Hopefully Moicano turns this around quickly to get that taste out of his mouth. And as you know, he can't afford to sit on the shelf for too long. Quickly, before we get out of here, I want to talk about Gregory Rodriguez against Jack Hermansson. Devastating knockout, right? So if Herb Dean was a little bit more fleet of foot, maybe he prevents Jack Hermansson from taking that extra blow. Your thoughts on this are well documented, that you're a fighter, you're not a referee. The referee needs to stop the fight. Now, Mark Hunt, the lead horse, is the king of the walk-off KO. Certainly there was an opportunity for a walk-off KO here, but Gregory Rodriguez doesn't really care what you think. And if the proof sort of lies in the pudding, he got a $50,000 bonus. And you can be sure when that knockout is repurposed on SportsCenter and all over the world, they show the follow-up shot.
Yeah.
So he's going to be criticized by some, but I know you sort of agree with the decision to, make sure that, the opposition is out in the moment. You got a millisecond to make a decision, right?
That's right. And, every professional fighter is going to approach that differently. And, there's also been the case where you've knocked down an opponent and you walk away, or you think he's out and you don't follow up, and the guy comes back to life and then beats your ass, or potentially tries to beat your ass. And, you're so focused in the moment as a fighter, you're probably going to follow up. I think most fighters are most likely going to follow up, and it's the referee's job to stop you. That's the key here. And I think Herb Dean was a little lazy in that stoppage of getting in between and stopping Rodriguez from that follow-up. I don't think it was necessary. But again, every fighter is going to approach that differently. And, it's hard to turn that off as a guy that is trained for that killer type instinct. And in my opinion, I don't have a major issue with it. Could he have walked away? Absolutely. Probably would have been fine. I didn't see Hermansson getting up after that big shot. But again, that is not his job. Rodriguez's job is to keep fighting until he's told not to do so. So he's a RoboCop. He's a robot, right? Yeah.
And I'm really interested to see what they do with him next. He had moments against Jared Cannonier, but he's going to get a big fight at 85. And he is a fearsome guy, I would think, to show up in your bracket if you're a 185, or the consequences of one clean shot from that guy. My word. And congrats to the young Mexican-American out of the MMA lab, Jose Miguel Delgado. No bonus officially, but you can be sure the knee will be taken care of by the UFC in whatever back room. Congrats to Tracy Cortez and Terrence McKinney, Jacoby Smith, Jonata Janice, and everybody else. Memorable pay-per-view UFC 317. And quickly before we get out of here, you may have heard Ken Flo reference. So I am calling the fight between Canelo Alvarez and Terence Bud Crawford. Absolutely thrilled that they called my number. Very excited to work with Max Kellerman, who is ubiquitously regarded, I think, as the best boxing analyst out there. Third member of the broadcast team will be announced at a later date, but very exciting. You know, the last time I called a boxing match was the WBC Heavyweight Championship in 2010 between Vitaly Klitschko and Shannon the Cannon Briggs. So 15 years between boxing assignments, but I got the entire month of August and September to dive into the preparation, and I'm very excited, and I understand sort of the responsibility of what I'm being charged with, the fight of the century in many respects.
Dude, I am pumped for you. I know you're going to smash it out of the park. These are two of the best boxers in the game right now, and I'll be watching closely, man. Congratulations.
Thank you, buddy. All right, we'll see you all September 13th on Netflix for Canelo Alvarez and Terence Bud Crawford. We are off next week. We might do a short pick segment because we do have Taliesin Teixeira taking on Derek Lewis in Nashville, Tennessee on July 12th. So we might do some quick predictions with Ken Flo and Big Gun Wednesday or Thursday live. Otherwise, enjoy your 4th of July. Enjoy your Monday. Thanks to our producer, Cody Merrill. Thanks to the great Ray Longo. For Ken Flo, I'm Jon Anik. We will talk to you in short order. Until then, see you later.
I love this shit.